Welcome to Channel Squared, where we connect with you, the divine, and channel here with you live. I'm Heather Marie, founder of Soulgate.
And I'm Jody Lynn Craven, founder of Abundance Consciousness. And today we are talking all about the distortion of happy. What we're going to call it is plastic happy. And I'm really excited to have this conversation because I feel the more that I raise my conscious vibration, the more I question the societal constructs of what is happy. Are you excited about this conversation, Heather?
Totally. I love this topic because I think that, so many times we're told to be happy, raise your vibration, be happy, be happy, be happy, be happy, right? And all of this happiness, is it genuine? Are you genuinely happy, or are you forcing yourself to be happy so that you can elevate your vibration? Because if you're not actually happy, you're not actually raising the vibration.
It's artificial.
Exactly. It's plastic happy.
It's plastic. It's plastic happy. And you know what? This actually really hits me in the feels, because for a long time, I was plastic happy. I was artificial happy. And the really interesting, silly, if you will, thing about it, I tried to not judge myself for it. And that's taken a lot of practice. But what I'm trying to say is I didn't know that I wasn't happy. I got so caught up in what other people said would make me happy that I stopped asking myself what actually makes me happy. And I started living my life for everyone else and what they thought would bring happiness to their lives, i.e. my life, and how it should be.
I think that is something that really should strike a chord with everybody, because when I talk to people about what it is that they want in their life, they come to me and they're like, what is my purpose? Well, what do you want it to be? I mean, ultimately, you're the creator of your experience. I know that you maybe have a purpose or a plan in what you were coming here for is on a soul level, but you still have the human component of that. And what exactly would make you happy? Would finding a man and having a whole truckload of kids, would that make you happy? Or would, learning underwater basket weaving, would that make you happy? What is it exactly that would make you happy? And so often time, I am presented with a look of this. Well, I don't know. I don't know.
It sounds stupid, but it's true.
It's true. It's true. I mean, even I have fallen into the rut of what do I want? What would make me happy? And so many times I don't know. I just don't know what would make me happy. And I think that it's really important to ask yourself on a daily basis, what would make me happy today? And when you are doing various things throughout the day, is this making me happy?
Mm-hmm.
Am I feeling happy?
Mm-hmm. What does happiness feel like? When was the last time I was happy? Like really authentically, pee my pants, happy. And I say it's stupid or it's silly, but I mean that we're adults, and myself included. This was a huge shocker for me, not knowing that I wasn't happy. Like what?
Right.
Or even what makes me happy? Well, I don't know. I gave that same dumbfounded look as well. Like, I actually don't know the answer to this question. Interesting how, I'm in my 30s and I have no idea. But I think our society plays a huge role in this. And our society has been driven by things, acquiring things and stuff. And so that is the typical, answer for people is like, what do you want for your future? What do you desire? When I'm teaching abundance consciousness, what is it that you desire? More money. For what? Well, I just need more. Well, how much more? Well, I don't know. Okay, here's $1. No, I need more than that. But why? Well, I want this beautiful house. I was a really, I am the example that I teach. I use myself as an example because I am constantly learning abundance consciousness and relearning for myself. But my house, my dream home, is completely different today than what I thought I wanted 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 10 years ago. I wanted a really massive home, really big, like 10,000 square feet, huge, huge home. And now that we have a different living situation and I've been able to ask some of these pivotal questions, what makes me happy? I've been able to ask that question of myself. Does a 10,000 square foot home, like what about that would make me happy? And I can't even really describe it to you, Heather, but there was a picture that I saw on Pinterest just recently because we're in the design phase of our home, what we want it to look like. There's this beautiful wall of windows, like A-frame, and it had these beautiful logs going up it. And it was just breathtaking. Like it looked like trees and wilderness, really. And it was so open and expansive, and it clicked. I had the perception that I needed a 10,000 square foot home to have that. It wasn't even the view, but that all the windows, like the feeling of expansiveness and openness and sun coming through and just being in nature, even though you're inside, that makes me happy. Not the 10,000 square foot home. There's a huge distinction. I can have that in a 1,500 square foot home. It's just a design element. And I would have missed it if I wouldn't have started to ask this question of what about that will make me happy, or what is my perception of why that will make me happy? How will that make me happy? That's a difficult conversation to begin with on your own, because I think you're going to find, as I did, and I'm sure you did, Heather, that as you start to filter through the things that you think will make you happy, you come to this space of, it's not about things. It's really about experiences, or that has been my experience moving from plastic happy.
Well, and I think that when you are looking at happy as the term happy to me is a result of something else. So when I look at happy, I look at happiness as a way of being, like a state of frequency, not a emotion. So when I look at happy, I'm not looking at it as the emotion of happy. I'm looking at it as the frequency of pleasure, of just like a uplifting energy. Joy is the emotional precursor to happy, right? So when I look at, what do I need to be happy? I have to look at what do I need to feel joy? Because if I'm not feeling the emotion of joy, and that's the precursor to being happy, then what do I need to provide myself with the precursor of joy? Does this make me joyful? Does this make me joyful? Does my little mouse with the blinking blue light make me joyful? Kind of, sort of like it. It's fun, especially when it's blinking, So I look at things of like, what is going to bring me joy? And I think it's really fascinating, the 10,000 square foot house analogy, because I too have been like, oh man, I would love to have this big, beautiful home. But the reality is I don't want that big, beautiful home. I actually really like my home size, just the size that it is now. And I look at it and I go, but I would really find a lot of joy if I took out the whole back end of it and only made it windows, so that the outside was an inside, just like you said, right? Bringing the nature in. So I'm like, well, I can't do that with this house, because this is probably not going to be our forever home. So I want to keep this house in a place that others can live in it. And so I said, I'm going to bring the outside in. and I am becoming a plant freakazoid. We talked about that on, a few weeks ago when we were talking about, the plants, but like I need to bring the outside in. Why? Because the plants bring me the emotion of joy. And so in that space of being joyful with all of my plants, I can settle into the vibration of happiness. I'm happy because I am joyful. That's kind of how I look at happy.
Yeah. That's a really great place to start. What is happy to you? And I think everybody's going to have a little bit different answer to that question. I love the way that you put it. For me, I look at happiness as joy, and I don't separate the two, like joy being the precursor to happy. I think of them more as one. And I don't think that there is a right or wrong answer. It's just what you feel. So I immediately go to, what do I enjoy? And I often question if I actually enjoy something. This is something that's happened to me more so as of late, because the asterisk I want to make on this conversation is that you are not a stagnant, still being. You are not a tree. Even a tree is not a stagnant, still being. They are evolving, and you are evolving at hyper speeds. So even in the class that I teach about abundance in my course, I tell people to go back and write their list of like things that make them happy, like the activities that they like to do that brings joy to their life, because that is an ever moving target. And something else I'm doing is asking, is it something that I actually enjoy? Because I have found my old conditioning, my programs, my old programs of how I used to work, how I used to rearrange my life, what I thought was happy, sometimes rear their head and their ugly head and play a part. And I will find myself just automatically sinking back into this old frame where I don't have time to do that. So therefore I don't enjoy it. It's like, and an example of this, my dad would ask me to come over and go for sleigh rides with him or whatever, hook up the horses and drive the horses. And I would always be like, and I noticed myself doing that a lot, and feeling like huffy about it, and almost like irritated or frustrated, like this was an obligation that I had to fulfill. And so one day I stopped myself and asked that question, like, do you really not enjoy doing this at all? Because that's what your whole like huffiness is saying right now, is like, I don't want to do this. And I would actually say some of those words like, I wish I didn't have to go, or, whatever. Right. So I started to ask myself that question, do you really not enjoy it? And the answer wasn't a yes or no. It was just like, well, I don't know. I don't know. And I left it at that. And then I would go and do said thing. And I would notice that I'd be huffy. And then the moment that I arrived, as soon as like it began, like I jumped into the wagon with my dad and we were like off, everything shifted. And I loved it. I loved being in nature. I loved the deep, authentic, inspirational conversations I would have with my dad. I would love that connection. I would love how he would challenge my thinking and I would challenge his, and we would talk about all sorts of philosophies on how we see the world and how we're different and how we're alike, and all of these things. And I would feel rejuvenated after. And I realized that it was old programming that was coming up, that was creating from this belief system of I should be doing work, that was putting all this huffiness around it, which would, be the beginning of the experience. So I would be like, I don't really want to go and do that, but it's one of my favorite things to do. So I had to confront that and say, no, I love that. I enjoy going out there and spending that time. That's one of my highest values, is family and connection. I want to do more of those things. Therefore, I love it and I enjoy it and I'm going to, but I had to like reframe it all in my mind, because from where I was standing at the beginning, I believed I didn't enjoy it, which was plastic. was inauthentic, was fake. I do enjoy it, but I had to go through the experience and ask myself all those questions to realize how much I enjoyed it, and then allow myself to enjoy it.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think that there's a lot of areas in your life where you can look at where you have kind of taken that approach, that plastic happy approach with it, instead of really sinking into that like feeling of, oh no, I really do actually enjoy this. And I think that you should definitely look at those things when they come up and you're like, kind of like, oh, wah, wah, wah.
Yeah.
You know, okay, I'll do it with a smile, I guess, today. You know,
I
when
guess
you
I
have
have to.
exactly. So when you have those moments, investigate, explore, be curious about why you are feeling that way and do it anyway. And when you're doing it, explore again. Do you actually enjoy doing this? And why would you be so about it if you actually do enjoy it? You know, what can you do
Yeah.
to reframe that when you are having those moments of, right? About it.
Yeah. And even the opposite, things I thought I enjoyed, like I thought I enjoyed working 15 hours a day, that I was happy to do that. And it's not that all of it was bad, but I can't say that all of it was good either. There was things that I really enjoyed doing, but the way that I was operating was because of a belief system that was no longer empowering me. It was forcing me into this cage of one possibility rather than the billions that exist that we've been talking about over the last few weeks. So really understanding, like, do you enjoy the things that you do? Why? And being curious, no judgment. I mean, you could enjoy whittling sticks into beautiful birds or something. I don't know. It's not my thing, but it could be yours. You might love that. My husband loves gardening, loves it. You can tell his shift in his frequency the moment he puts his hands in the dirt. Like it's like instantaneous. I've watched this. And I really liked being outside, at certain points in my life. But I noticed that because I grew up on a farm, it was usually work outside. And so when I first moved to the farm here, I wouldn't go outside because there was nothing for me to do, AKA work. There was no work for me to do. So what am I going to do outside? Sit and read a book? That's not an efficient use of my time. See, belief systems. So really the last year was my test year of like, I see how much joy he gets from putting his hands in the soil. And I know how healing that is and how nurturing it is for your body, my body, and being outside and getting a suntan, being in the sunshine, like all of these things. I used to like certain parts of them and I wanted to like them again, or I wanted to see if I enjoyed them again. So I really took a step back and was like, okay, do I like this? My hands in the dirt. Ooh, I do like that. I do like getting dirty. I'm a farm girl. I like to play rough and hard and whatever. Like I like to be dirty and messy and whatever when it comes to the way that I play. So it was perfect and I could create. And so I started to build this love and this joy of being outside and having my hands in the dirt and planting these plants. And I would talk to them and conversations and it became one of the joyous things that I do in the summertime. But the year before that, I didn't have any joy for it. So really questioning what you enjoy and allowing yourself to be curious about it and move in whatever direction you feel the best about.
You know, as you were talking about your sort of epiphany with the garden, the farm, it got me thinking about how I kind of get teased by my family for being so bougie. And
Mm.
look, I am a bougie girl. I like nice shit. And it's just who I am, right? And the thing is about it is it's not about it being nice or high quality as it is about it being beautiful. Like, I
Mm.
love beautiful things. I can find beauty in some of the craziest things. We were out on a walk with our little wiener dog the other day. And as we were walking along, I was like, there was a weed that was like in the middle of the grass. And most people would be like, wow, what an eyesore. Look at that big ugly weed in the middle of that beautiful lawn, right? And I walked up to him like, oh my God, look at this, these beautiful little flowers, right? I'm sure that everybody around us was probably thinking, that girl might be insane because they see the weed, but I
Yeah.
see the beautiful colors and all of the dimension that was in the little teeny tiny bittiest flower you could possibly imagine. But that is like, that's who I am, right? And I find so much joy in admiring the beauty of things. I love, being outside because there's so many beautiful things to look at. We have this fence in our backyard, and it's the way they set up the fences here is that it's kind of like part of it's facing you, and then you have the backside, and it's like it changes back and forth, so that when it's time to replace the fence, the neighbors have to get together and decide, who's going to, pay for the fence. Are we going to share in the expense, or are we going, someone going to pay for it, and someone gets the ugly side and someone gets the pretty side, right?
Yeah.
But I kind of dig the fact that the fence is back and forth like that, because I get to see like how the boards bend depending on who's taking care of their lawn and who's not, and it's so
Ooh.
interesting, right?
Yeah.
And so, it's getting weathered, and it's starting to take on this grayish look, but there's so many beautiful hues of gray. And like, the wood's getting a little dry, so the little knots are falling out. So it looks like there's little eyeballs out there looking through the fence, and it's
Yep.
just so interesting. And I think that when I think about the fun and the joy that I find in the beauty of the little things, that is what makes me want to, have these beautiful things around me. And so I could easily look at my family who teases me for these things, for liking all of these things and wanting to have nice things. But really, they just don't understand that that is actually what really brings me joy,
Mhm.
and having the nice things, is what brings me joy. You know, I built a Murphy bed with my dad over the holidays. There it is. This is it back here.
It's
So that now you
beautiful.
know. So if you know,
Yep.
you know. And could I have got a Murphy bed and my dad helped me assemble it and I would have had a cabinet on this wall instead that had a Murphy bed in it? Sure. But no, I wanted it to be beautiful, a thing of beauty. So we ripped out a closet and it's inside of the where the closet used to be, right? And I
Yep.
wanted it finished a certain way. I wanted raw wood that was shiny to be on the front of it. Why? Because I like the energy that comes from that type of material because it's beautiful. So for
Mhm.
me, like the nice things are a thing of beauty, and that beauty is what makes me feel joy. And that joy is what then translate to happiness. So could I be plastic happy with my closet and wall with bed on in cabinet? Sure. You know.
Ting.
But I really wanted to create an environment that was going to bring me this joy all the time.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure where I was going with that. I guess I was just sharing.
I love that. And it's not it's so interesting because my perspective of why you like expensive things has completely shifted. It's not even that you like expensive things because if Walmart or Target made a beautiful couch with beautiful materials that sang to you, you would buy it. You don't care
Absolutely.
about the brand. You
Mhm.
care about what it feels like and how beautiful it is when you look at it. And I think that's a huge distinction for a lot of people because even myself before, when I'd be looking at like cars or things like that, I'd be like, oh, I want a Mercedes, whatever, right? Because Mercedes are cool, or I want a BMW, or I want whatever, right? It was because of this plastic side, this artificial side saying that you should have that because that's high end and that looks cool and that is a statement about who you are. And that never really drove me because I could care less about the car that I drive. But there are certain things that I love about the simple Ford that I have, the car that I actually do drive. I love that it has adaptive cruise control. That just makes me joyful because I never get speeding tickets because I always have that thing on and it slows down and it speeds up and whatever. It just makes my life easier. I love that it had, these the heated steering wheel. It just felt so nice. And now I can see the perspective that you're taking with some of the higher end things that you get called bougie for. It's simply because of the way that you perceive them and the beauty within them. It doesn't matter about the designer. You don't care about the designer as long as it's beautiful. And what's happened in our society is the most beautiful things that are curated are typically a high-end designer. The stuff that you find at a lower price point, not all, but most of the time, is things that are mass produced as many as possible. So they have to be simplistic. They have to be, a cheaper or more cost-effective material. So you lose some of that beauty because you're mass producing it for the mass population rather than a curated, like a person who wants that curated look. And it's a completely separate feeling.
Exactly. I mean, when you look at shoes, for example, shoes are a perfect example of, if you're looking at a handmade Italian shoe and you're comparing it to a machine produced whatever Italian shoe, like, okay, we'll just keep it apples to apples here. You're looking at Italian shoes, one's handmade, one's machine made. The beauty in the hand making, the fine detail that is paid attention to by someone who's hand producing something versus somebody who is running it on a computer program is a night and day difference. You're going to pay 400 or 4,000% more for that handmade shoe than you are for that machine shoe, but the beauty is entirely different and the energy in it is entirely different because that person put their love into the product.
It's so interesting. I was just having this conversation with somebody about food in our society today. We're so busy doing all of these things that we get the cheapest and fastest things for food. A pizza, we don't make a pizza anymore because it's too much work. We just have one in a box and put it in the oven. And I have been having this realization that like the actual making of something, the picking of the fruit or the whatever you're putting on your pizza, like all of that is contributing to the beauty. So I mean, last week I made homemade dough for calzones, and it was so joyous putting my hands in the dough and working it out and making this beautiful masterpiece. And it wasn't exactly like I hoped it would turn out, but I know how I will adjust it in the future. So it makes a better pocket and different meats that I would use. I'm being more creative with that and allowing myself to take the time to be in joy. Because before I would make a meal and it was really for sustenance. Like, how quick can I make it? And, good-ish quality ingredients so that it would nourish us and do the job, like quick and nourishing, which doesn't always align together. And realizing that was a part of the plastic facade for me of like, I just got to hammer through it, get it done and move on to the next thing because I'm exhausted. I need time to relax or whatever. I found relaxation. I found joy in kneading the dough, and I didn't have any music on, and my husband was in the room, but he was doing a course for work, so we weren't actually talking, but it was nice to just be with my own thoughts and rolling this dough. It was so freaking peaceful. I did not expect that. So then the next night I made different dough and I made naan bread, and now I want to make tacos, and there's all of these things that I want to create because they're beautiful and they're nourishing, and they made me so incredibly happy to be a part of the creation of it.
Yeah, as you've been talking about this, I was thinking about like ways that I could find joy around food. And, anyone who knows me knows that I kind of have this tricky relationship with food. And it's something that I work on all the time. And I'm kind of in one of these low points with food because, I'm trying some things and it's just not really working out for me the way I had hoped it would. And, Quinn was discussing with somebody else, and he was sharing this conversation with me. He was discussing with somebody else about the intimate relationship that one has with the food that they prepare for another. That preparing the food for somebody else is a very like intimate and loving thing to do. And when I heard that, I was like, it like opened my eyes so much to the love that he provides me when he makes food for me. And I thought to myself, as you were talking just now, how can I reciprocate that love? I'm going to grow the food. I've been wanting to start a garden.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to do it last year, but the year just got away from me. And so this year is the year that I'm going to start the garden. One way or another, we're going to be growing some shit. So, I thought, this is a way that I can, one, nourish myself by being with the plants and being in the soil. And two, it will be an expression of my love and my gratitude for the love that he provides me with preparing the meals. How lucky am I that I have a husband that cooks?
Yeah.
But the thing is like in thinking about this, I'm already feeling so much joy around it, so much excitement, and like so happy and peaceful with it. So think about ways that you can find real happy, not the plastic happy that society thinks you should be.
Yeah. And question all of the things that you think will make you happy, and allow yourself the space to find out if it actually does, and move in whatever direction you feel the most called to go in. Because I think that is why we are here, is to experience, to have that joy and have that bliss. And it is much simpler than you think.
Boom.
Wow. Boom. What a bombshell conversation. If you enjoyed it, make sure you hit that like button and that you are subscribed. And thank you so much for watching. We will be back next week talking about boundaries, how to say no, resetting your nervous system, and grounding. So make sure that you have that reminder button clicked so you don't miss that conversation. Take care.